Today I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks on forming a successful and productive team through the lens of student learning teams in educational environments. In today's educational system, collaborative learning has become a popular concept implemented by professionals and all levels of education. However, some student learning teams generally tend to be ineffective for a number of reasons. There's normally one member of a student learning team that shows little to no commitment to the project and therefore is not motivated to give his or her best effort to the cause. There is also no established connection that brings the group together and intrinsically motivates them to do their best work for the good of each other. I recently read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which provided me with quick and easy solutions to these common problems. Carnegie's book, published in 1936, was the first of its kind. It compiles extremely useful information on soft skills, such as dealing with people, being an effective leader, and making meaningful connections with people in everyday situations. All of the principles discussed in the book are easy to apply to everyday life and provide you with instant solutions to the aforementioned problems. So, how exactly do you go about changing the attitude of that one stubborn team member who shows no commitment to the cause? Carnegie would say, be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. This means praise every achievement, no matter how big or small, and genuinely let the team member know they are doing well. Say a team member, we'll call him Andy for our purpose, is not fulfilling his responsibility of gathering supplies to complete the project at hand. A good approach to changing Andy's behavior would be altering his task to a starting point, such as making a list of necessary supplies. Once he's completed that first step, thank him for his effort and praise him for accomplishing the assigned task. He will then feel like he has done something to contribute to the success of the team and be more motivated to accomplish his next task. The other major problem I encounter in the majority of my student learning teams is a lack of connection and commitment to each other. If an individual does not genuinely care about his fellow team members, then he'll be less likely to give his best effort to the team, therefore dooming the entire group to failure. The first step to developing a successful team is called forming, which means getting to know one another on a genuine level and establishing those meaningful connections. This can be accomplished by first and foremost remembering your teammates' names, how to spell them, accurate pronunciation, etc. Carnegie sums it up by saying, a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. This seems like common knowledge, but is often overlooked. If you do refer to people by their correct name, they're far more likely to respond to and respect you. More examples of how to form meaningful connections are genuinely being interested in other people, listening effectively, talking in terms of other people's interests, and letting the other person know that they're important, sincerely. Carnegie has 6 principles on making people like you, but I don't prefer to call it this because it sounds like you have some agenda behind gaining that person's friendship. It's more like making people genuinely enjoy your company. Of course, it's important to be likable, but personally, I don't want people just to like me. I want people to know that I genuinely care about their interests and them as a person, and consequently, I hope that person genuinely enjoys working with me and being around me in general. That's the one major downfall to Carnegie's step-by-step guide to perfect human relations, and it's stressed throughout the book. If these principles are implemented in an ingenuine manner, people will know and will not fully respect you. It's easy for people to see through simple flattery in today's world. The point of these tips is to make meaningful connections so that you can be successful working with others. Like I said before, these principles are easy to apply in everyday life. I've already started to try some of them, and when used correctly and sincerely, they're bound to work. If you found this talk interesting and want to learn more about being successful in relating to others, give How to Win Friends and Influence People a read. This book is full of examples of how people have used these skills in their places of work, at home, and in other everyday scenarios. If they can do it and I can do it, so can you. Now, let's hear what Nadia's got for you next.
Thanks, Maddie. So, by a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Carol Dweck? Okay, well, how many of you have heard of the book titled Mindset, The New Psychology of Success? Well, good. Then you will believe everything I say regardless, since none of you know. Just kidding. But anyways, I recently read the book I mentioned, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, and I would like to tell you guys a little bit about it. But a little bit about me first. My name is Nadia Wynn, and I plan to pursue a career in education. Dweck's book really spoke to me in terms of how to lead in the classroom setting and how important your mindset is in really everything that you do. So there are two mindsets in which Dweck suggests that we think in. Those in the fixed mindset tend to think that things like intelligence and athletic ability are innate competencies that cannot be changed. In this mindset, imperfections are shameful. Those in the growth mindset have a passion for challenge. Setbacks are motivating to them. And they ultimately believe that basic qualities can be cultivated through effort. Thinking about art is a really good example of these two ways of thinking. So many people think that a person is either born with artistic ability and talent, or they aren't. But it's actually something that can be learned. You can be terrible at drawing, but with practice and the right mindset, you could transform into an amazing artist. Look at these before and after self-portraits that were done just 5 days after each other. Students enrolled in a drawing class, and 5 days later, they were significantly better artists. The most interesting parts of the book to me were the studies that were done with children in the classrooms. For example, when teachers praise students for their abilities, it pushes people into the fixed mindset. These students would be let down by when they would not perform as well, and they would reject any challenging tasks because they didn't want to expose their flaws. However, when students were praised for effort and teachers applauded them for how hard they tried, 90% of students embraced challenging new tasks. They viewed them as learning experiences and not as opportunities to fail. It was enlightening to read about the power teachers have to transform people. For example, elementary school teacher Rafe Esquith tells his students every day that he is no smarter than his students. He's just more experienced. He puts himself on the sort of same platform as his students. Dweck elaborates on how so many teachers live in a fixed mindset where they, quote, think of themselves finished products. Their role is simply to impart their knowledge. However, when teachers think this way, they could create a cold communication culture in the classroom. Rather, there's a relationship of superiority and inferiority between the students and the teacher. Dweck highlights the importance of creating an environment for students to understand that school is for them. However, this does not mean teaching so softly and leniently. Growth-minded teachers tell students the truth, but then they provide them with the proper tools in order to navigate the obstacles that they'll face. Whether you are like me and aspire to be a teacher or not, Carol Dweck's book is great for all. The section of the book most interesting to me was about the teacher and student mindsets. However, the book elaborates on how the fixed and growth mindsets apply to all areas of our life: school, families, romantic relationships, businesses, and sports, and how they lead to certain behavior traits. You ready, Rosemary?
Thanks, Nadia. Unlike the last presentation you guys saw, mine's not going to be about teaching, but it is going to be about mindset. Hi, my name's Rosemary, and this evening I'm going to be talking to you about my book selection, Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational. And his book's main topic was that we believe that we're in the driver's seat and that we're in control when we're making decisions, but in fact, we really truly aren't completely in control. We're often on autopilot, and there's influences that we're susceptible to in our environment that influence our decision making. And we often believe that we know what our preferences are as well, but he believes that we don't. We're not actually aware of what our preferences are, which also affects our decision making. There's quite a few topics that he discussed in his book, but there's only a few that I'm going to discuss tonight. One of the topics that I found interesting and rang true was our irrational self, and what he described as our Jekyll and Hyde, and the idea that we tend to make different decisions when we're in different states of emotion, such as we're frightened or we're angry, which sometimes I tell my boyfriend I'm hangry. For example, your boss criticizes you, or maybe a teammate when we're working in our learning teams. You might be upset because you spent time on working something and you spent a lot of effort on it, and that person's criticizing your work. You might be susceptible to, in that moment, you're in your emotions and you're angry, and you can say something that you don't necessarily mean. So it would be good, as he explains, to take a minute and cool off before just reacting. Another topic discussed in the book is why we can't make ourselves do what we want to do, the problem of procrastination. With his experiments, Dan found that although most of us struggle with procrastination, those who recognize and admit their weakness are in a better position. Recognizing this weakness allows you to use tools such as pre-commitment to help meet goals and timelines. What I found interesting is how much of our topic touches our lives, such as wanting to eat healthier, exercise, saving money, or reducing our debt. I know that I've had these goals and procrastination has played a role. Pre-commitment tools can help with this. For example, say you want to save money, you can use a direct deposit directly from your check pay stubs into a savings account, and you can accomplish the goal of saving. By setting these goals as far as procrastination, we can use this in our learning teams and as well as with work. We can say that we can set goals for accomplishing certain tasks by a certain time that's before the due date. That way everybody can have time to give each other feedback and do a great job on our projects. All right, and last but not least, we have Janelle.
All right, thank you. All right, last one. My name is Janelle, and something I realized when taking this class is that when working with student learning teams, the most common reason for setbacks was communication. Without clear communication, there will not be clear delegation of tasks, effort put into cooperation, nor any collaborability. This puts people in an unclear environment where the group does not know what they're doing. However, one concept that is brought up in my reading selection, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, that could improve your team dynamic is the law of the few. The law of the few is a group of trendsetters, or connectors, mavens, and salesmen. These people help an idea or concept spread and do the footwork which is needed for an idea to take off. The connectors are the people that build relationships with other people and use those connections to elevate their connections. This is that one friend who knows everyone, and this can also be that other person that just brings mutuals together. The mavens are those who are aware of the products or specific attributes of a product or idea and then inform the people around them about it. This is someone who knows when there is a good sale or when there's a new restaurant to go to. The salesmen are the people who use their charisma and energy to bring others in. Think about that one friend who gets you to go into those weird situations. This person can talk you in circles and knows how to get you to agree. By taking bits and pieces of each archetype, building connections, being detail-oriented, and showing sincerity, team dynamics will be greatly improved. The law of the few plays a great role in the stickiness factor, which is the main point of this book. Once an idea reaches its tipping point, it goes viral. However, for it to tip, that idea needs both the correct people and the stickiness factor. The stickiness factor is a quality that makes people pay close attention to something. Examples of the stickiness factor are Birkenstocks. When they first came out, people knew of Birkenstocks to be simple and vintage, yet ugly. However, despite their backlash, their users were loyal, and that started the trend. Another lesson from Gladwell that could be used to improve the dynamic in all learning teams is the power of context. I think the power of context can really help improve learning teams. The power of context states that human behavior is heavily influenced by the environment. One example of the power of context could be the rise of yerba mate at USD. The power of context or environment of San Diego being carefree yet socially responsible and trendy matches the essence of this caffeine alternative. This concept can be applied to when you physically meet with others by ensuring that no one in the group has an important meeting or deadline coming up. By having everyone be at peace and be able to fully dedicate their time to the meeting, the environment will be much more efficient.